Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am with the legend that is Dave Thomson. Again, he's with us on Success Leaves Clues. You would know Dave from his previous interviews that we've done, and if you haven't seen it, make sure you do. He's one of 7 people in the world who can teach Pre-Suasion from Rob Cialdini, and he has been a good friend of mine for many, many years. Dave, thank you for joining us, and I know we're live in the Brew with everybody who's in the Brew. How are you been?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, my friend. Really, really well.
And how's lockdown treated you? Because I did say to everyone that you like your holidays, and to be locked down would be a challenge for someone like you.
Normally it would, but you know what? It's been brilliant. I mean, I've been practicing my golf. I haven't been able to go snowboarding, unfortunately. Normally I'm having a holiday once a month, but you know, those things have gone. But it was my birthday the other day. I had the whole family around, and it was just amazing. It's probably the best birthday I've ever had. And sometimes you don't realise what you've got until you have to slow down and stop. And I think it's just been such a gift, that, you know, an incredible gift. And, you know, I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad I sold my business a few years ago. I don't have any of that to worry about. So it's like, whoo, that's gone. But, you know, life's really good. And I'm learning, I'm doing, I'm creating, and, you know, life's amazing.
And I think a lot of people have been enjoying the lockdown as well with the family time. In fact, quite a lot of people will probably struggle to go back to work because they're liking it so much.
Well, yeah, I agree, mate. I totally agree.
So then what have you been up to then? What have you been doing? Because I know you've got your training platform, and you've been doing a lot with, is it BSI and various other companies?
I did some work with the British Standards Institute after I sold my business and helped them raise their results significantly, working with 350 of their people in EMEA. And that was really good. And I've been creating a new digital learning platform, a social learning platform, and teaching persuasion. I don't see anybody teaching persuasion as a science. So, you know, the last 30 years of my life, I've been about learning about the science of persuasion, whether you're trying to raise money for a charity, whether you're trying to persuade somebody to go out with you, whether you're trying to persuade, you know, trying to win a business deal. It doesn't matter. It's all persuasion.
And what is it? What is persuasion?
So in life, you've got 3 different things with regards to persuasion. You've got how to establish relationships, how to overcome uncertainty, and how to motivate action. And so what I teach starts off with behavioral science. So this is scientifically proven to work. And a science basically means it's something that if you do it, you can repeat it and you're going to get a predictable result. So an example, one of the principles of persuasion is the principle of reciprocity. And that's linked to a core motive, which is how to establish a relationship. And so reciprocity is about reciprocal exchange. If I do you a favor, you feel like you owe me a favor. If I invite you to one of my parties, which are really good, by the way, if ever I have one, you should come along, then you feel obligated the next time you're having a party to invite me, to invite the Thomsons along to your party. So it's about the obligation to give back to others what they've given to us. And what often happens when we're trying to persuade somebody, if we're trying to establish a relationship, we don't necessarily think about the principle of reciprocity. We think, what can I get from this other person, as opposed to what can I do to help this other person? And then they'll feel obligated to do something back to help me. And that's one principle. What happens though, some people will give and give and give, and they'll be brilliant at establishing relationships, but what they won't be any good at is overcoming uncertainty or motivating action. And that's where other influence principles, other persuasion principles come in.
Okay. And so what would that be? Would that be then from people who might give but not be able to sell? Or because selling is one of your superpowers as well that you implement.
Yeah. Well, it is selling, but you know, if you're trying to motivate, one of the biggest things is establishing trust. So if you meet somebody for the first time, I think, how can I trust you? You know, because when you come and you're trying to persuade me, or you're trying to persuade somebody else, you've got your best case here. Here's your strengths and here's your weaknesses. Yep. The last thing most people would think to do is start with their weaknesses. They think, I need to start with my strengths and tell them, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is why we're really good. This is why people work with us. And that's a mistake. Behavioral science tells us that's a mistake, because every time when you're trying to persuade somebody, if they don't know you, all of your influence and persuasion attempts bounce off of a wall of uncertainty, because the people can't trust you. What most people assume is trust takes time. It takes me a while to trust somebody. I need to know them. You know, we need to do a few things for a while. But actually, there's a tactic that you can use within behavioral science, which is counterintuitive. It's to admit your weaknesses up front and say, look, this is where we're bad. This is where we get it wrong. We get it wrong in this degree, this degree, this degree. But here's the things that we do to make up for it. Here's where our strengths are.
And that's quite interesting, isn't it? Flipping it like that, because people and as humans, we're naturally drawn to a negative. So actually, by framing the negatives at the beginning and then showing the positives to exceed it, that's quite clever, isn't it? Really,
it's just what we need. And so when you do that, what happens is people will trust you more. It's how you can build instant trust to say, look, this is where we're not good. We're not very good in this area, but here's what we do to make up for it. And then people have thought, well, okay, I'll listen to you now, because, there's been, what we're talking about is social psychology, but more recently we've got neuroscience. You can put headsets on and you can test people's brain waves, and their brains cool down when somebody admits a weakness, then tells you what their strengths are, as opposed to saying, this is where we're really good and we've won this award and all that. It's like, yeah, don't believe you, mate, don't trust you. So how can you get somebody to trust you? And that's one of the things that you can do, admit a weakness.
and I think that's also, even within a weakness, that's also with a big trend now on videos and content and sales is, what problem do you solve? Not how great your business is, what problems do you solve, so you can familiarize with that audience. So whether you're imperfect or your business is imperfect and you overcome something, or whether they have their customers, you solve problems for people. That's what people buy. People buy the problems you solve and how you overcome them. So what did you say that there's 5 principles that you work to?
So what you've got, if I just share my screen, if I just share this with you, then I'll show something to you. And if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'll show you this. So this is what's called, if you come to a workshop, this is the principle of persuasion's message map 6.0. The reason it's 6.0 is it's a 6th version of Dr. Cialdini's workshop. What you've got is, at the top left-hand corner, you've got relationships. And there's 2 things that you can do to establish a relationship. One is to get the people to like you, and not get them to like you, but establish the principle of liking. And the other one is utilizing the principle of reciprocity. And there's things that you can do within that to establish a relationship. There's also 2 influence principles, and these are what are called core motives to overcome uncertainty. So you've got the principle of authority, because these are shortcuts for us. These are the 6 shortcuts we take. And social proof. If we don't know what to do, we're uncertain, we look to see what other people are doing. And the last 2 principles for motivating action are the principle of scarcity, telling somebody what's rare about what we're offering or what they stand to lose, or the principle of consistency. And so each of these things, what they do is they start to trigger within us different actions. And so if you were looking to put together a tender, for example, you would look at this grid and you'd say, how good are our relationships with these people? And you say, oh God, I know these clients, they love me, they've been with me for years, that's a 10. You'd say, what about uncertainty? And it's like, we're not really good on uncertainty. They're not sure whether it's us or somebody else. Or we could say was, okay, what evidence can we demonstrate of awards that we've won? What clothing, what title, what accomplishments can we do? And we can tick off the authority box. Or what social proof have we got? Have we got reviews from 2,000 people that we've worked with, that have helped us, that have, that are there? And if not, how can we start collecting those reviews to say, look, if you're uncertain and you don't know what to do, here's what our last 400 clients like you said what to do. Because if you look back in time, if you didn't go along with the crowd, what did that mean? Let's say there was a crowd and you're cast out from the clan. What did it mean?
If you weren't, is that a question to me?
Yeah, for you. So if you didn't go along with the clan, let's say you got a clan, all these people, and they cast you out. What did it mean in going back in time, the olden days and years ago?
Oh, I don't know. For me, I'd say it's awesome because I would just go and do my thing. But I think most people, it'd be like, it would be feel bad and feel unaccepted, maybe.
If you go back to ancient times, it meant death. If you were cast out, it meant death.
Wow.
So whether you realize it or not, you're hardwired to follow the crowd. That's your wiring. So if you show them what everybody else is doing, it's like, you might think you do all right, but bottom line, you're a team of 1, mate, and they're a team of 5,000. Yeah. So, if you look at species, like birds go in a flock, bees go in a swarm, animals go in a herd. So these are just the shortcuts we take. So we look at that and we think, right, well, how can we tick off the social proof element, the consensus element, to show them that in their similar situation, many other people or similar other people like you, this is what they did. They moved in this direction.
Yep.
And then even when you've done that, you think, how can we get them to act and motivate them to act with us? And that's where you start thinking about the principle of scarcity. And there's things within scarcity that activate the principle, that amplify its power. And if you don't know how to activate and amplify scarcity, you end up saying you've only got 2 days to make up your mind, or you're going to lose out. And we end up doing it in a really naive, a silly way that isn't in our best interests. And from an influence perspective, from a persuasion perspective, we end up bungling our way through influence principles or not using consistency in the right way. So when you know how to establish brilliant relationships, overcome uncertainty, and motivate action, utilizing science, what happens is significantly more people say yes to you. And from my experience, like, it took me from rags to riches, and I became the top financial advisor in the UK after leaving school at 16 with 0 qualifications. So, it's been amazing to start learning what behavioral science teaches us about persuading and influence. And I profess that, today everybody needs to persuade, because we spend 40% of our bloody day doing it. We want to take that shortcut, just get to the shop in minutes, while other people are taking hours and just going about it the wrong way. And then wondering, hold on a minute, how come I got lost on the way back? What happened there? I've come back and I didn't even bring any groceries back. Right, now let's knock that out. Let's make sure we just tick these 6 boxes.
Okay. And they all sort of interlink as well, don't they? Because you're saying about groups, and it's like, birds of a feather flock together, but you surround yourself with like-minded people who push you, then you'll be pushed further. And if you surround yourself with people who don't push you, then actually you won't necessarily grow. You're sort of dragging people who don't want to come, and you sort of got to let them go and continue with those that are pushing and make you feel uncomfortable, because uncomfortable also is a great way to feel, because 1, it means you're alive, and 2, it means that you're going to push through, and that's where greatness happens, when people are uncomfortable, I believe. But at that point, or at the point when people are just given up, actually when they push through, that's where success comes through. That bit there. It's a bit like, I suppose, also in like fitness, when you run 5 miles and then you can push and you go another 10 miles and you go forward. Now, you've had coaches and mentors from all over the world. I know you've traveled everywhere and spoken to so many people. Out of all the people you've spoken to, who has been the most influential in your life?
God, really good question. When I think back, the first book I read was written by a guy called William Clement Stone. And he went from, and I didn't meet him alive. The book was called The Success System That Never Fails. Right. And in that book, I learned about positive mental attitude and what it played in terms of the role it played in terms of success. And I can't ever look past Clement Stone, because reading his book and, what he wrote down, that was my starting point. And I don't think I've ever come across anything better. I've trained with, the best people that have walked the planet. I worked with the world's leading keynote public speaking champion, Ed Tate, last year. And, and also another guy called Dan and Jayo's, like, they're just amazing, amazing people. But, I always come back to Clement Stone because, he went on, he created a business where he became a billionaire. He created the Aon Corporation from $100. But it was all about the right mindset. It was about having a positive mental attitude. So whenever I, used to take people when they came to work for me, the starting point was always the right mental attitude, and then doing what you've just talked about, which is going the extra mile, rendering more service and better service than you paid to render, doing it all the time, doing it in a spirit of harmony, because then you can start to break comfort zones and barriers. But it's important to have a really good team. Otherwise, your mindset won't settle. So if your team's not right, your information's not right, then why would you continue? The journey will only be compelling if you've got really good people around you and you're in the right environment.
What would you say is your superpower?
I can teach anybody to be outstanding, anybody at persuading.
Okay.
And I can build anybody's business to make it significantly better from a persuasion perspective. Build a team, build a culture. Even no matter how poor, average, whatever, anybody, I can make them outstanding.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna come to people with some questions in a minute, but I'm gonna have three questions for you, which I think you've answered previously, but I'm gonna give them again. So, what advice would you give your younger self?
Um, I mean, it depends how far you want to go back. If when my dad was an alcoholic, kicking me head in, and I was in the children's home, the first thing would be, don't worry, this gets better. Everybody goes through some shit in their life, and you're going to get some shit, and we all get shit in our life at some point, but it gets better, and that's just part of the life experience that we have. Everybody has a tough time. Some people get it at the beginning, some at the middle, some at the end. I suppose it would be mixed with really good people. The more you can learn from the best people that walk the planet, the better you will get. And so that's what I've always tried to do. When I wanted to learn to play golf, I had some lessons off Butch Harmon. I got to be the club champion at golf. So whatever I do, I always like to learn from the best people. And I think it makes it easier. It's a shortcut.
Yeah, which is a good shortcut, right? I mean, that's why I say success leaves clues, because
there is no other shortcut.
Yeah.
Learn from the best people, then you'll do it. And whatever it is you're trying to do, somebody's probably already done it. Somebody's probably already done it, and it's not that hard, but it's about establishing those relationships with those people, and then getting them to help you. Then all of a sudden, magic can happen.
Okay. So what does success look like for you now?
I want to create a paradigm shift in the way that persuasion and influence is taught globally, and for that, I'm creating the technology and the training to change people's lives from a persuasion perspective, to make sure that people understand it. So when I was at school, I hated school. It was terrible. I left at 16, like my ass was on fire. And at 1986, 85, when I left school, that was just how it was. But if I'd got the opportunity to get a degree in the science of persuasion and influence, and I knew that I could go and spend that, I would have been compelled. I thought, this is worth learning, because that's something that would have been worthwhile. So learning about persuasion, teaching other people about persuasion, and building a monster in that regard, where you've got social learning, where people are learning from each other and they feel empowered, and then I think it's worth it.
Okay, cool. And then the last question, like Charles, I sort of ask, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Do you know what? If I can be a good father to my kids, then I'll take that forever. Yeah. And that's really hard, because you're tested every day. They always come up with new challenges. But, if I can do that bit right and get that right, and they just turn out to be great individuals, then I've done my bit for mankind, so that's my...
How's the lockdown been? Because I know that for mine, I love my kids like every parent loves their child, but sometimes in the lockdown, it can be testing.
Do you know what? It's been amazing for me. My daughter... My 11-year-old daughter, Millie, we go out and we walk the dogs every night, every single night. Something I never used to do. And she's been off at like Oakham School. So every night we go and do that. And it's just been amazing. To me, it's been an incredible gift. And, they're great memory hooks, aren't they, as well? You look back and all you've got is time. It's the most valuable commodity. Yeah. So, that's one of my shortcuts, like learn from the best people. It saves you time. So, so to me, it's been incredible. We live in a great big house, so, it's like, you can go where you want. I've got bloody acres of land out there, so it doesn't matter. There's no... You sold at a good time, mate, didn't you, really? Oh, no, mate, that insurance business, I'm like, whoa, I dodged the bullet, but my timing's always been lucky. I've always been lucky with timing. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, one piece of advice then, maybe... before then we'll go to questions and I'll break out with everyone. What advice would you give a business or someone at the moment going through a tough patch right now? It's going to depend on context, Ricky. I mean, ultimately, keep costs as tight as you can. Like, one of the best things I did in my business was I got rid of all the shit people. Like, all the people that I knew that would just have their hand in my pocket. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of them, because they're a waste of time. And inside your conscience what the score is. And then the other thing is, you have to inject fresh blood into your business. So getting new, young, hungry, enthusiastic people that are prepared to work harder and go around the block. And if you can put a training program in for those people, they'll surprise you. They'll blow you away, because they'll create opportunities. But you got to train them properly, and you got to get new people in. So it's a little bit like having a bench situation. If you've got a football team and you've got nobody on the bench, the people on the pitch are like, oh, yeah, I hear you. If you've got a bench of people coming through, pardon me, Ronaldo's on the bench, we better run. and then if you're culling the weak, the people that you should cull, because that's what job of a leader is, and say, you're gone, like Sir Alex Ferguson, you're gone. Even if people are just getting slightly overripe, see ya, and you bring new ones through. And if you're bringing that learning culture in, you watch it revitalize itself. You know, I took a business from, we stumbled along 5-6 million quid, not really making anything. We made 2 million quid when it was flying, but whatever. Culled it, moved it back, all of a sudden made 800 grand, million quid, piece of piss. Why? Got rid of the people that shouldn't have been there, got the right people in, got some new people coming through, transformed the way that the business operated. And then the other thing is train everybody. You can't train one specific part of your business. You need to bring everybody in, so everybody's learning every week. It changes the energy, changes the vibe, changes the communication.
Yeah, and it's important, isn't it? It's important for direction of a business so that everyone sees where you're going and they come for that journey. And young new blood are also hungry. They're hungry to achieve and do more.
Young, by the way, is a mindset, not an age. I employed a guy in the last business just before, when I flogged it. He was 63 years old and he got a leg missing. But his mindset was razor. He'd got kids in Australia, got 5 kids. He was an amazing guy. It's like age is a mindset. Youth is not. Some people are 18 and they're ancient. Some people are 63 and they're still kids. I'm telling you.
I mean, I think the scary thing.
It's total mindset. It's got nothing to do with age. You can take somebody that's 50 tomorrow. I'll tell you now, they'd kill their granny for the opportunity to work with you and do something. So you've got to look at energy to energize others, passion, execution. Will these people listen to instruction? Will they work around the block? Will they really bring it for you?
That's quite scary though as well, isn't it? Because really it's a hunger for learning. Somebody might want to change direction, who's going to push and go harder. But there is an element in the younger generation right now that they haven't necessarily faced a great deal of adversity because they get a lot of things and they have instant gratification monkey. They want everything now. So they aren't necessarily going through the pain of lots of tough jobs. And they get it.
Ultimately, what you're looking at is the fabric of the being. Are they made of the right stuff? Some people are just made of the right stuff, and they are. They might not have all the skills. They might not even quite have the right attribute. When there's something there, you can spot them a mile away. And when you look, you go, you've got something. Your job is to create an environment, an ecosystem, a culture for them to go to infinity and beyond, and put in the right learning, and then the right communication strategy, and the right level of accountability, and then just watch things fly. You'd be amazed what you can achieve with the right. And the other thing is, get out the way. It's not about you. We're ancient. We're old. We're dead as far as they're concerned. Get out the way and let them get on with it. Get out the way. Move over, Grandad. It's not about you. Let the other people in and show you.
Before I break to everybody, and thank you for your time today, mate. And I know we'll catch up on lots of things. It'd be good when the lockdown isn't on, so we could go out for something to eat and grab a drink. But we can always do a virtual beer, can't we? A virtual cheers. If you was to name 3 books for people that you've gone through, or audio books, what would they be?
I think Success System Never Fails is always a great one. Influence is a great book by Dr. Cialdini. That's an amazing book. And then in your business, there's a little book called The Dip by Seth Godin. You've got to create some kind of dip. So in order, when they look at you, if you're going to put your tender in for a business, how can you create a dip? So when they look at you, they can't contrast you against somebody else because you've created, like Google did with a dip. You have to create a dip. So when they look at you, they're looking at you like, it's like that. They can't quite see it. Well, as opposed to looking at you and saying that against that is that. You have to create some kind of a dip.
Okay. Awesome. Mate, thank you ever so much for jumping on.